Welcome, gentle listener, I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the factions, forces, and faces of the Warhammer 40k universe. The grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. In January, I like to take a short break, work on planning bigger videos, and set my house in order for the coming year. So, I have some very big videos being planned and researched for. I like to be as precise as my servo-skull noggin can manage. Hence, here is a collection of some of the stories from the videos from 2023. I hope you enjoy this as it is intended. A hobby or sleep prop, or for those long commutes. But rest assured, I am working on big pieces that I hope will scratch that itch for a banquet. And, as usual, if you like what you hear and wish to enjoy more, then do hit the like and subscribe buttons, notification too, of course, and leave a comment if you're able. It would be a great boon. Also, check out our other channel on Mythology, links in the description. And now, on to the stories. I can see it in their eyes, all of them, as they look at me. I can hear it, their breaths held, waiting, listening, for it, the only thing they need. I can smell it, their tiredness, their toil. It hangs off them like a miasma, blood, sweat, loss. I can see it in their eyes as they look at me, the windows into their troubled and terrified souls. Their hands shake, their weapons clutched with white knuckles, or suspended in hands ready to let them drop. So many of them, not one unblemished by the caress of the fray, the mark of war. They have endured so much, and they can hear the ground rumble with the advance of the enemy. They are defeated. This moment is their last. They have just enough strength to look at me. But theirs are not the hollow eyes of the dead. They're wide and glistening. They're the eyes of 1,000 children. This is the only moment I have. If I fail them now, they are all dead. They need me to give them the one thing they have lost. They need hope. I walk to the front of the overhang. I slowly take off my helm. I crane my head and look in all directions as I turn on the spot. The scarred windows above, the rubble-strewn streets below. I look at them all. I make eye contact with as many of them as possible. And I do as I was trained to do. I attempt to bring them that most elusive thing. I speak of hope. I state that we can and will survive, if only our faith is strong enough. Then I try to rekindle the fires. And I speak of fortitude. I speak of courage. I speak of the glory that they have already achieved. Then I stop. I pause and take stock. They can all see me. They can all hear my message. But I am not the one who speaks it, not truly. For, to them, I am one of his Astartes. I am his angel of death. I speak his words. The Emperor. He has sent me to lead them. The eyes are wide, but no longer glisten. Their stance is wider. Some shake their weapons, but not in fear. Never. They can feel it. He is with us. I raise the tempo. I draw my sword and I point it to the heavens. And I speak of wrath. And my words are punctuated by their cheers. My oaths are resounded in their 1,000 throats. I speak of death and revenge and slaughter on our enemy. And when I ask them, who is with me? There is not one of them who is silent. We then man our defences. They do not lope, they run. They charge to the stockade, the battlements, the windows. Every gun emplacement is brought online, every firing nest filled with special or heavy weapons teams. And I stand upon the centremost segment of the defences. They are coming. The sun dips below the horizon behind us as we look out onto the pockmarked hellscape outside. Muddy craters scores of feet across, filled with water and Xenos bodies and blood. The box battery fire had taken its toll over the preceding week, according to the reports I read on the way here. Dropped off by a storm raven, each marine of 4 tactical squads dispersed across the front. There were Astartes concentrations, but not many, and not here. This was a defensive position of only tertiary import to the overall line, but its loss would mean flanking possible too early in the complete battle for comfort. So, we came to stiffen the lines. I am Astartes, an ultramarine. I am Lucullus of Macragge. I will not falter. I will not let these people fall. I have faced the bug before, and have brought them low. And so, with the dark, with the dusk, they come. And I order the shelling to begin. From miles behind our lines, the Emperor's wrath is unleashed, landing amongst the foe as they charge towards us, and struck my soldiers on where to fire, when to fire, and how much to fire. I know the enemy. With overlapping fields of destruction, artillery sport from the rear, we cull them. Termagants rush across the plains in their thousands, gargoyles like flies thicken the skies. And our batteries whir as they pump stubber fire into the air, making it rain dead nids on those below. Yet something is different. Something about the way the swarms move. They are not one wave of flesh anymore. There are as many, but there are separate currents, different streams of them. They do not rush onwards so dense, so deep. When our fire strikes, they scatter from its path. Before, we would kill scores with a single bombardment shell. Not so now, and the heavy fire from the stubbers is less economic than I had hoped. For even in the skies, they now seem to be broken into more squadrons than thunderheads. They are not one huge flock, but many swirling flotillas of gargoyles, all led by larger flying primes. They get closer than our tactical position should permit. Then it happens. I had expected something, anything, but this. Burrowing, bursting from below, it comes with a trigon in our centre behind the walls. The fire teams I placed in exactly the right position are already lighting up the mammoth being. Melter shots and las cannons dart into it, and the trigon is dead before it can slay a single one of my soldiers. But it was not alone. A thing comes out from behind a shadow. It strikes at me on all levels. I can feel a wave of power, warp power, emanate from it in waves of fear, just as its claws and tentacles lash at me. I have fought a lictor before, but this one is different. The men and women around me, they unman themselves. They quail and flee in panic. I am near overwhelmed mentally, but my reactions are those of the Astartes. They are fast, and they are automatic. My bolt pistol is raised and fires to reduce its vectors of movement. My blade comes up, and I slice off one of its thorned appendages. Despite my every instinct to flee, even me, I stand. Instead of stumbling back, giving ground as it might expect, I launch myself forward with my sword extended. It is so startled at my superhuman speed, I catch it directly in the middle of its horror of a face. It is dead before I withdraw the blade, whipping it into the air as others cheer. My men and women return, too fast for normal. They are not broken by fear, but by the power of the Xenos, the scum. Warp trickery, Yet the night is long, and I lose more and more men than I would expect. I, a veteran of the tyrannic wars. They have better organization, more flexibility. The enemy have also far more accurate beasts now. Not as large as a biovore, but not as visibly identifiable amidst the gaunts either. They fire their weapons into our lines, exploding like flechettes. Tiny barbs slam out from them and kill all around. The barbs of these gaunts cause our men to keep their heads down, and as they do, the enemy closes unchallenged, unharmed, and the pressure on the dam rises. The walls are reached, and the new horrors amidst the gaunts are revealed, like smaller lictors, but no less aggressive. They scale the walls with ease and burst over the battlements into our lines. Von Ryan's leapers, they die. We kill them all, but they kill many of my soldiers for each one that passes. We are beaten back. But it turns into a deluge when the thing arrives. Descending from above, a squid-like bulbous body, tentacles like those of a venomthrope. It is a brain with a crest and teeth, yet surrounded by neurothropes, the eyeless things all lashing out with their psychic fire. Beams of their hate turn battlements into rubble, men and women into charred, smoking skeletons. In their midst, this floating mega-brain, this mental tyrant. Waves of power come from it, far beyond anything the lictor did. The waves from this being slam against the souls of my soldiers, and they either died or they broke. No pretty speech could stop them. No punishment returned them. The being came down toward me, but it was a distraction. As I fire up at it, blowing slithering limbs from it, much of my fire bouncing off a mental force shield, it is then that one of the Tyranid primes drops out of the sky behind me. I am too slow. Despite my armor and genes, resisting the effect of the brain bug, I am too slow. Its claws tear into my shoulder pauldrons. I have failed my soldiers, and now they will all die. The Prime finishes the job. I plot their path, their actions. But there is no time to activate a call that will reach aid. I cannot merely do what I would do so often and call in some kill teams, support. We are past that stage now. They are here, and they are doing what they do. Consuming everything. Once, I was close with one of the greatest inquisitors of my order, Ordo Xenos. Now, I realize I've even breathed these words with admiration. I could be put to the task myself, for he is no longer in good standing with our order. He is hunted. He is reviled. Those who deride or denigrate him, they are jealous. They are nothings. For he, Cryptman, was right. He was always right. But in this, more than anything else, he was dead on the nose. For it cannot be denied. The Tyranid is the greatest threat to the Imperium, to humanity at large. Many will say it is the greenskin, but they are most often localized nuisances. Some will look to the previous might of the Eldar, stating we should finish them off in case they resurge. They ruled the galaxy once. But we have been told to avoid this issue now, from very high above. Strange that it coincides with the return of a Primarch. Perhaps he is not who he states he is. For if he loved the Eldar so much, perhaps he is an impostor. For why would a son of the Emperor protect their foul, degenerate kind? Some say it is the sheened metallic legions of the Necrons. One of my peers, Barabbas, stated he had studied them, had found out their secrets, would find their king even. He stated that their monarch had awoken, and that this colleague stated that the Necrons, rising from a deep sleep of millions of years, that they were older than even their Eldar. Poppycock, I say. They are merely those who hid from the Great Crusade in worlds and systems without Mandeville points, separated from the warp lanes. In the dark. This is where they come from. This is my belief. But I have no time for those distractions. Dalliances with impeding doom, when there is a real threat to our entire existence. The Great Devourer. The Tyranid Hive Fleet. The Tyranid vanguard organisms can hide amongst our very populations. Did you know that? Yes. Few do. That something so alien, so cursed, could inveigle itself into our society. But that is a thought for another day, for I am somewhat busy at present, with a war I should not be fighting myself. But I was tardy. I did not get us out of here early enough, and so we are trapped here. And so I give the best assistance I can. I attach myself to the command staff, and I advise. We use auto-targeting arrays and the best of our gunners. I direct them to the most threatening bioforms. We annihilate the most obvious leaders of the Horde, yet somehow they maintain cohesion. Unlike before, they do not break and run, do not scatter from us and become easy prey. Amongst their numbers are commanders holding their force together, but I cannot even discern which of the throng they could be. So we fight. We fight hard. But it is not going as I had hoped. This will not be a victory. I know this. But I can make it harder for those things, those filthy Xenos. And as an adherent of Lord Cryptman, I know that this will make a difference. Perhaps not today. Perhaps not for 100 years. But all of these delays to the onward rush of the filth gives our kind more of that which we need the most. Time. We will unlock the riddle of the Tyranids, and we, humanity, will be victorious over them. We just need more time, and that is what I shall fight to gain. Time. Deep within the dark, she saw them, scuttling around outside. Always there were many, always together. They were killers, as much as she. But they had not come in. They had tried once, twice, 3 times. They had not tried again after that. But they did not leave. The first time, she took the head off the first 3 that came through the doors. 1 with a bite of her teeth, 2 more with her mighty claws. They quickly beat a retreat. The second time, they had tried to come from beneath. She had let them come in, then shot many with her spines, then charged in to take the last with her claws. Her rampage was swift and final. She belched psychic power down the hatch that they had come from, then dropped a segment of the roof on top of it, closing the entry point. The third time, she saw them try to get in through the windows. A rank of them exploded through the lower doors in unison, but again, she sent a scream of mental hate and poisonous spines at them. They tried for longer. she saw 50 of them come through in waves. Their small flashing guns singed her in places, but any attempt to concentrate fire on her was met with a psychic assault. Eventually, they stopped coming, but they had left plenty of biomass behind. She took rubble and things inside and placed them against the main ingress points, and she feasted. Deep did she sup and gulp and swallow of each and every edible given her in these 3 assaults. They moved around, further away than before, covered all her ways out, so danger remained. They must be gathering their swarm to attack. So she, too, began to raise her forces. She could hear the hive mind still, but it was weak, distant. They had killed much of the swarm, yet she felt it here and there in patches, and she drew strength from it, and she ate, and she pushed. All along her body, starting at her head, the judder went down every muscle, every fibre of her long, bulbous body, until it dropped onto the floor. The night was long, her banquet of biomass plentiful, and she pushed again, and again, and again. She could see the first touch of red in the skies above her, as morning's first light moved across the city. They would be tired. She was now invigorated, a warlord once more. They would come. They disliked counterattacks. They ran. But such was true if she hid them while they were still gathering, slaughtered them piecemeal. So she called out. More were coming. She hissed, and there was silence. She could hear their wings, the wings of those coming, soon. But they will be killed by them, if not distracted. So she slowly raised herself up, taking direct control of the swarm, and her army ran. At the windows, doors, they burst through the defenses she had erected, and were spitting their hate, her hate, out at them, screaming. She came barreling through the largest door and retorted. Her scream was amplified by the hive. It swept from sound to ripple across reality, smashing all of the minds of them within a huge range. They fell. Their fire reduced. It pattered off her hide, and large shots were jumped in front of by her spawn. They charged into the defenders, some falling, but many more of them were dying. Above, the winged ones finally arrived. When in range, she took over their mines and launched them down at her enemies. Those high but distant, firing the most dangerous threats to her. The winged ones screamed as one and fell on them from above. She stopped and turned into a building. She had taken biomass from them, who were killed by her swarm, and she pushed, and she pushed, and came out to join her swarm once more. Them had walked to this place in nice lines. Them were easy pickings, and she walked behind her children as they surrounded and slaughtered them. And she ate, and she pushed, and she ate, and she pushed some more. And the swarm grew. Them fired at her hive with fire from on high, but she now had more children than she started with those days before the tyrant was killed by the fast-armored them. The flying ones carried her will to the swarm, and she broke her forces into many tendrils. Beneath, she sent them. She now controlled the place of smells and waste. She called again, and her song was stronger now, and more of hers came. The war beasts were hardest to dominate, but her young made her more powerful. The war beasts came and led the charges now. took down the highest walls, smashed the metal boxes of them. And she called again, and others of her kind, great mothers, joined in her song. As the day ended, the swarm sang her song as one now. The tyrant was dead, the Star Mother gone, or also dead. But she could not stop. She was. This, and nothing else. Like a program running. And she could hear the greater swarm. She would consume this world. Legacy. I am the shaman, the spiritual leader of our tribe. I know the songs of our people, our lines and lineages. I hold wisdom that can heal, knowledge that can burn, and I recount the truth as we see it. For not all are of accord in this matter, but those of the southern peoples, they will never understand. They did not see it as we did. They did not feel it as we did. They do not live it as we do. The soft southerners see the sun rise in the morn, the crops grow in abundance, the fields filled with lowing, plump cattle. They do not understand. How could they? They view the world through their eyes. To them, all is as it appears. For us, the world is more complicated, yet in some ways even more simple. We feel the wind in the air, but more. We feel the currents that move it. We feel the hate of the universe. We feel its power. We know it despises us. And we return the sentiment thricefold. We hate the world and all in it, for what has been done to us, for what is being done to us. Our oldest tales, they speak of the first times when we were as they are in the south. Our songs reach back to the times before now, when they came, the old ones. They brought us here, or made us here. The songs use words which mean the same thing, perhaps because there is no material difference, perhaps because our ancestors did not know which. But they describe in words a time when there was peace, there was plenty, there was tranquility. And in those days there were two mighty gates, one at the bottom, one at the top of this world. Doorways into other worlds, portals into other realms created by these old ones. In their smug superiority, they thought they were perfect. They were not. They were weak. The old ones, these gods of good, who brought the races into being, were fallible. None can tell why, or merely wish not to think on it, but the great gates collapsed. We know nothing of that which happened at the heel of the world, for we knew only the cold embrace of the north. Our people had spread and multiplied all across the reaches of snow and silence, and it is said that we thrived. Then came the catastrophe. When the gates collapsed, the lies of the old gods, the old ones, were laid bare. They were not the arbiters of reality, for they were not the only beings of power. Perhaps the breaking of the bounds was done by these other beings. Perhaps they were held at bay by these gates. But it matters not why. Not really. All that mattered is that they could now see this world, and they hungered for it. So they took it. These new gods were cruel, but powerful. Their influence reached out from the blasted, ruined detritus of the gates, and it changed everything. The influence crept out from those sites, and with it came the murder horde. The servants of the Dark Ones were unstoppable. They were nightmares of form and function, blighted all they touched, transforming everything in their path, or destroying it to the least and the last. There were some amongst the tribes that fought against the rising tide, but they were fools. The Dark Ones stamped them into the dirt, and even the surviving few of these self-proclaimed heroes bent the knee when they saw the faces of their children. For the touch of the Dark Ones twisted our people from the first birth after the great catastrophe. Some recoiled in horror, attempted to burn or drown or expose their offspring. But after a few years, even such as these could see that there was no turning back. For our children looked as though part of nature, at least to us. We were the children of the land, and it was shown now in our visage. For many of us grew to have the faces of cattle, hooves to stand, manes for mantles. There would be no waiting for our people to be born pink and perfect. No, this was permanent. We were no longer who we were. We were something new. And the horror died. The sorrow burned away in the constant fray. For the Dark Ones still unleashed their minions upon us, even if they were not victorious. In times when the people of the South turned them back, the self-same people could not recognize us as the same as they, so they hunted us. They slew us. They captured and burnt us. But we were no longer weak. Hard had been the life in the cold and silent North, but now we were reforged in fire and blood. Those of our youth who made it to manhood, they were stronger, faster, more potent than ever before. We had our beauty taken from us, but it was replaced with almost limitless power. Where before we stayed in the one hovel with thin walls of twigs around us, now our people moved where we wilt, when we wilt. Where before we ran or hid from the minions of the Dark Ones, now we marched in their entourage, we formed their comet tail, and we smashed the beautiful ones wherever we found them. The days of the unfettered power of the Dark Ones passed. Their hordes were slowed and unlocked from coming into this world. A trick of the elves is what is said. Thus do we hate them near as much as our erstwhile kin. Yet the Dark One's influence was now writ into the very bones of the mountains, running in each and every river, infused into every plain or paddock in the north. And so we, the children of the Dark Ones, were rampant. We claimed the south, taking all that was not held by the pretty ones. The mountains were for the bearded. The seas and peaks of coasts were for the elves. The forests were where our former kin hid from us. And in those times, the bray herds flocked across the plains like a sea. We ruled. None could challenge us. And we did what we wished. We slew indiscriminately. We lived raucously. We ate well, for the pretty ones tasted so good. Then came the comet. Then came the hammer. Then came the king. A mortal man who unified the pretty ones. The man who brought them all together, and he led his armies against us. We were the mightier, but they had hidden from us so well, had bred so speedily, that we had no concept of their true numbers. They came out of the hills and forests to follow this Sigmar, and he was given power by the gods of good. His hammer could not be stopped, and he slew war leader after war leader in open combat. And so, they took the plains, the humans did. They took the riverlands, and then they took the hills. And our places swapped. For as their numbers grew, they built settlements with curtains of rock and stone, and they forced us into the shadows, into the darkness. We stand there today, in the places where they hid from us, the darkest centres of the overgrown forests of this world. They forced us back into the cold and silent north once more, and this is why we hate. Once we were pretty, then. Once we ruled this world. Now, we have neither. We are not fine of form. We are not rulers. Not yet. But we know something that the pretty ones do not. The elves, the dwarves, our kin of old, the humans. They think that the dark ones are gone. They think them locked behind unbreakable bars. But they are wrong. The dark ones are not defeated. Never. They are watching and waiting. One day, a great champion will come, and he will tear down the walls between worlds, and he will lead the armies of the Dark Ones back from their realm into this. And on that day, we shall stand beside him. And on that day, we shall gain revenge. For on that day, the Bray herds will surround their ever-chosen, as he destroys this world. I am Lord of the Sons of Jugoris, here at this great muster. I am Osmokai. I am the White Scar. Stranger has never happened in all my life, for now we, the Angels of Death, the White Scars, go out to sweep the stars, to hunt for trouble, to look for enemies, whereas the Navy fights the enemy fleet. Never before has this happened. But never before have I been among such a gathering of my cousins. We Astartes were to be the hawk that flies high, to protect against transgressions, to strike like lightning and thunder. For many fell foes are abroad, and all plains and lanes lead into this one place, this abundance Tertius. The Ultramarines, Templars, Fists, Salamanders, and more, all hold near the Mandeville Point. Thus, it is I who volunteered to perform our traditional role. I would take out strike flotillas to scout the outer systems, and to see what darkness gathered there. Between the stars, between the systems, more than one fleet accumulates. More than one avalanche of armadas head towards this space. The tainted traitorous scum also are lurking. So much have I seen with mine own eyes. Returning, we stopped here in this system to take stock and rest our navigator. And there they were. Our Geller fields needed to power down to recharge. As soon as that had happened, they appeared. Still a way out, but covering space fast. Throwing out data gin and interference that caused our sensors issues. I had left the battle barge with the fleet, of course. Transferred my flag and ridden out atop the strike cruiser, baleful charge. Accompanied by 5 escorts, we were a force to be reckoned with, to do work. But we did not know what we faced. It could not be orcs or early tendrils of the bugs arriving, for neither could effectively scramble our Auspex sensors, their scans. It had to be something far more dangerous, but there were many potential candidates. As I said, traitors, renegades, the degenerate Eldar, or perhaps just stupid but well-armed raiders. But then, they got closer, and their attempts to obfuscate peeled away. It was the Soulless, the Necrons. The Black Templars have experience with these Xenos, but we White Scars do not. I do not. I opened entries on my heads up. I scanned as fast as I could, even as an Astartes. Bad. So few encounters, so few reported on is more precise, because so few had survived said encounters. But we could see their plan. It was solid. Bull's horns. Simple, but solid. I grinned to my brothers on the bridge as I then give the order. The enemy must think we are just Imperial Navy. We are not. We are the sons of the Khan. And, as is rightly said, we do strange things to our ships. We launch a barrage of missiles towards them, fighters from our escorts in a dispersed pattern behind that. Let us see what the Xenos can do. They launch fighters also. Then their first surprise play is revealed. A ripple of energy bursts from their lead ship, behind, so we cannot identify it still. Until they do that. They fire what the Ordo Xenos have designated a star pulse generator. The dragon behind the swarm is a Cairn-class battleship. I note the ships at our flanks. They burst around us faster than I thought they would by some degree. I grin. This is how war should be. Fast. A highly subjective quality in void warfare. It is certainly no charge or melee. But this will do. I order our predictable oblique attack, powering toward them to frighten them, then sweep aside and pick off their stragglers with heavy broadsides. This is what they will predict, and exactly what we will do, of course. But we are not the Navy. At that, they prepare to close the trap. Their fighters tearing towards us, their flanking ships turning in a fast hook to our rear. I then order full speed ahead. Now we put on a burst of speed that surprises them. We weather their fire, not all come through. I will enter the names of their crew in the annals. Our spear formation cuts to the left of the central block. We evade the cairn and take the edges of the pack. There is a gleeful clamor of battle outside the bridge as their forces appear aboard our very ship. Stripped of our shields as we are, the peripheral fire from the cairn and its lead escorts brought them down, and many shots passed straight through them. To be expected. They are a new threat. They will have their tricks, just as we. My lieutenant signals the battle aboard goes exceptionally well, so we thumb our noses at them and power away, leaving their net broken and their formation cluttered. But I am keeping my eye on the engines. The adepts will signal the moment the Geller fields have recharged. This may be tight. They turn quickly, reform like it was a dressage. They are warriors. I play running horse. We run fast. Then, more contacts. More have arrived. But we do not know who. This is either very good, or very bad, or very both. Unexpected. These are true sailors of the void. These human ships are disciplined and hardy. Their crew are genetically enhanced. I underestimated them, but it shall only be the once. I record their heraldry. This will make an interesting tidbit to hold close. These white ships are thunder and lightning. For the lesser races, they fight well. I will enjoy this. Klaxons scream across the bridge. Contacts. Fast. Very. Oh, I know these silhouettes. Can it be? Why do they close with us? Oh, this is fine jest indeed. I have slept for long, but to me it was only 100 years ago, a blink of an eye, since I was trading fire with true Eldar fleets. These are callow-weak popinjays compared to their might of old. I know. I had the pleasure of ending one of their hives amidst the stars. They are now weaker than I could have feared, but they are still of that race. We must destroy them. We will clash. Oh, I can almost feel it. The heat of battle. Now, I only feel the rage. The cold rage. I will end these gnats. I am fire amidst the darkness. I am the light of old. I am of Eldenesh. I am of Kayla Menshik Kane. And I claim that which is mine own. Again, fate brings us to the same field, yet this time there is common enemy. Ah, White Tiger, you are wounded, fast for your kind, but panting, bleeding, and the ghouls will surely get you. Nay, you are mine to kill, my closest enemy. No Ogier will claim mine own, the old enemy. And thus, they are now the enemy of mine enemy. So, soulless ones, let us do the dance of beams and blasts. I know I must be clever. We must be as swift as Falshu, for the soulless are near as nimble as we, and their ships do not die easily. So we duck into range and concentrate fire. 2 Necron escorts are torn to shreds on the first pass, and a pair lose their front halves on the second. But they will come back. Even I know this. But what happens next is a wake-up call, of the worst kind possible. The Eldari fool dips into range too close the third time, and I order a full report. Our ships of the line fire into the Eldar, and most of it ignores their pretty little fields. They break off in shock. 2 of them limping, 1 a carcass. The chevrons move like birds on my screen, and I have just thrown in a large rock at them, so they scatter. I order my scythes, my fighters, to cease harassing the human flotilla, and they swing around to engage the Eldar craft. The other previously flanking force I order to jump ahead of the humans. All they need do is slow them down. I wheel my formation towards the Eldari and prepare to give them a demonstration in ship combat. They will run, or they will die. And for me, I hope they do not run. I am Kari Pasha, majestic lord of the shifting stars, herald of the night unending, keeper of the sempiternal tomb, humbler of the Knib, a Pharaon of the Necronic dynasty, the warriors of the Golden Stars, and I am not who I was. My immortal eyes see all, yet my cognition shatters under the lack of stimulus. My sleep was long, longer than some, longer than many. My mind wanders. This started when my love, though she still stalks the shadows of wherever I am, I lost her, forever separated by a chasm beyond reckoning, minds broken in different ways. She lives in the shadows now, coming and going I know not how or when, wherever I am in the galaxy, on my crown world, aboard one of our mighty vessels of the void. She finds me, festooned in the skin of lesser races. She skulks and watches, yearning, as I look back from the light, yearning. Cruel has the time been to us both. I use the words, but I cannot truly feel it. Not really. Nor can she. Not since we were killed, our lives taken from us. Echoes of emotions, echoes of memories. Only fragments of our entire consciousness transferred to these walking sarcophagi that we call bodies. Like pouring an ocean into a thimble, so much have we lost. I retain only the tiniest slither enough of my personality to know what has been done to us, to mourn what has been done to us. My mind wanders. Once I gulped at liquid to maintain my mortal sinew. Once I knew a sensation I can barely describe anymore, let alone remember. It is not time. It is our form. I cannot remember what anything tasted like, how it went down my face and into my stomach. I've had my moments when I watch mortal captives consume liquids, push burnt flesh and prepared flora into their faces, and it is simply gone. So inefficient. If they do not do it daily, they weaken. I presume such was it with me, but I have lost those memories. I can analyze a moment held by my eyes now. I can sense the universe on so many levels. But I am, sadly, just about able to remember that I cannot remember it all. The slumber has made me senescent and less stimulated, you see. I look at the screens, and I do not see the vastness of the void. I see the rolling dunes of my home world. I see my love dancing under a blazing sun, her parasol angled to perfection to protect her against its withering glare. She is happy. In a brief, wretched existence of pain and suffering, she is happy. Out of the sun, a face appears. It becomes more clear as the image of the sun and dunes dissipate. I am needed. It is time. Our little trip has identified a catch. I am transfixed in the thrill of reality again. It happens most often in battle. But I am almost alive again. And I am angry. It is time to punish. And so, it is time to clear the lesser beings from our flanks. They must be chased away from our muster. We cannot have them spoiling our surprises. War I know this. I have done this for millions of years. Perhaps it is all I now know. But I know this. I stand imperiously out of my throne on the bridge, and in the name of the Silent King, I give the sign to attack. It begins. I break my command, my forces into the 3 wings and a center. We will run them down. We close, and their primitive weapons bark out at us. The humans. Ugly, slow, wallowing hulks with beaks for ramming? Barbaric. Despite this, I will employ the articles. I will not end it in moments by beaming cadres of assassins onto their bridges. It will be slower, but more honourable this way. Also, it protracts the event, the stimulus. And that I am most certainly all for. So we hunt them. To come in and kill them like warriors. I command the center. I surround my capital ship with escorts. My cruisers I send up either flank in a wide berth to the foe. Their weapons are crude, loud and messy, but they can be dangerous if concentrated. So I direct my cruisers to use their drives to sweep past them, but way out of effective range of the broadsides of the Imperial fleet. They launch a veritable wall of missiles, followed by a wave of attack ships. I caress an icon of command, and our own scythes are launched. But they do not fly out to meet the enemy, nor try to create a shield of fire to stop the bank of missiles incoming. I wait and I watch, poised for the perfect moment. Then I caress another sigil, and the pulse fires off. Energy erupts from my capital ship. It passes through my fleet like an oil bath. It strikes their missiles and fighters like the fury of a star, and they are swept away. Our own fighters then leap forward into a nearly empty darkness, unchallenged now. The Imperial ships thrust and speed up. They aim to trim our lines with an oblique attack. The pitiful fool in command must think I'm afeard of the prows of the crude ramming maniacs that are the Imperial fleet. But I am not. As they close, the shoal of my escorts cannot hide us anymore. The enemy sensors report who and what they face. I can only luxuriate in the thought of the looks on their vacuous, vapid features. For I am Karib Pasha, majestic lord of the shifting stars, and it is my Cairn-class battleship that they approach. And they, the humans, they are already dead. Utter carnage. My mind reels. I am aboard my flagship, watching a scene that I wished I had not viewed. Our superior senses discern the depth of the massacre, limbs floating in space. Whoever did this took the time out to not just flush the enemy into the cold void of space, but they dismembered all of them. Not one head is connected to a torso, not one limb matched to its trunk. Some have even pulled or sliced off every digit. One presumes that the victims were all conscious while it was being done. I see the children of the old ones, their ships torn to pieces, some with obvious collision impacts. They were rammed. Such fanaticism, such unfettered cruelty. The level of spite is almost bottomless, a yawning chasm that can only be filled by atrocity. Only in those who have fallen to the flare curse have I witnessed such sheer, unbridled, hate. I am Karipasha, majestic lord of the shifting stars, herald of the night unending, keeper of the sempiternal tomb, humbler of the Knib, a pharaoh of the Nephrek dynasty, the warriors of the golden stars. And today, I have witnessed the crushing of the lesser races. Yet, this was not perpetrated by those who succumbed to the curse of Landragor, the flayed ones. For they are almost mindless things, and no fleet could be commanded by such as these. And it was an armada of our own that performed this work of what they must consider art. I have no love for the lesser beings, I never have. I have no soul to move me. I have scant hold of the ephemeral memories of such an emotion. It rises like an after-image burned onto the eyes when one looks undefended upon the sun. It is nothing more than a memory of something that shone like a star. I almost feel it when I look upon my cursed consort, when she appears in the dark, watching me from the shadows. I always know she is there. Even before my senses detect her fully, I know it is not a thing of spirituality. I am beyond that now. No faith can touch that which does not exist. I have no soul to move me. I know she permits me to see her in the reflection of objects before she ever truly shows herself. In some small part of her mind, she must not want to shock or startle me. I doubt she knows what she does, what little of her mind destroyed by the Flare curse. She is now nothing but hate and butchery. She wears disgusting tattered patches of the hides of the lesser beings, dripping their still flowing lifeblood on my marble floors. She lurks and stalks. Perhaps she feels the same afterglow of what we once had. Perhaps she will one day leap at me, and we will end each other in a flurry of talons and blades. My last element of romantic dalliance, that we would poetically end one another, slumping into each other's arms in our last fatal embrace. But then, for us, there is no waiting barge to take us to some infantile afterlife. There is no future, just a never-ending present and the gulf of the never-ending past. We are dead inside. We are the soulless. We are the Necrons. So where did this level of ire come from? Who could conduct such a slaughter? Our muster has hung between systems for some time now, in the darkness where none can go but us. The lesser races move through the sea of souls, but do so via the ancient trails, those forged by the old ones. They do not venture into the inky space between the stars. With more forces arriving with each day, I marvel at the force being collected. A small green world. Yet it is of interest to the Triarch. The Silent King himself directs this congregation of our forces. I have not seen its like since, well, before the slumber. There are elements from a score of minor dynasties. I am considered one of the leading lights at present, yet there are so many Nemesors here, ever a fractious people. Tensions are rising, as there is no clear leader above them. And though I be a pharaoh, my force is meagre enough to negate the potence of my station. Like so many others, I have come via the dolmen gate that was dragged to this place, out where none can see. None will be able to strike us. The dolmen gate. A parody of the tracks of the old ones. We force a hole into their realm and smash our own lines of ingress, travel, and final exit. The others of rank bicker and jockey for position preeminence. I rise above. I am here because the Silent King commands it. And while they bluster, I act. So it is that I discerned the vermin as they stalked our positions. A small skirmish had broken out with the Eldar. They probe us for weakness, to discover our numbers and strength. They too must on the other side of the star system that is now teeming with the ships of the preserved Witch Corps. Their craft were inbound, picket passing, it would seem, where they feint and draw away our watch ships, hoping a second wave to move past our lines to get closer to our muster, to discern our numbers. Inept children. We knew these tactics long before they were born as a race, let alone these pathetic husks of their former might. I chased them off, of course, but this time I followed them. And I stumbled across the wreckage of the vessels that succored these smaller craft, and they are destroyed to the least and the last. It is then that I see the fleet that has done this. They are, unsurprisingly, ours. Yet whom? Andrakir? Or possibly even Zandrak? They send out no identification. I wheel my flotilla and set course for the main armada at our highest speed. As they go so languidly, I will be there when this individual arrives to take command. For surely, they are the ones who have been sent to lead the entire campaign. Why? Because they have multiple oversized Cairn-class tomb ships. This is no Nemesis. It is a dignitary Evoluminous station. Hopefully, one able to cow the collected chattering generals and bring the order that will grant us victory. But whom? I am just in time to take my position amongst the collected warlords. They know. Sensors have picked up the new fleet arriving. They have still not identified themselves. And it begins. A shimmering image appears, a projection from the newcomers. Clarifying sigils shimmer into existence before us. The sign of Hapthatra the Radiant, a Mesophet the Shadow Hand. And all attempt to resist, but none are able. Not even me. The re-established control protocols are too strong. When we see the next glyph, all are forced to their knees. It is the sigil of Zarek, the Silent King. And now my own gift from the slumber takes effect. I do not see metal and necrodermis. I see the others as we were, breathing living things, enraged things. The next glyph offends all here so much, many rise, and in my mind's eye they scream their disgust. I see spittle flecks erupt from shouting generals. I see flesh fists waved in rage. I hear their voices as if we were still alive. There will be no honor in this campaign. How dare he? We will not fight under the likes of these. And so many other statements, but all of the same dint. The glyph is that of the honorless. The executioners of the Silent King. The despised Mynarch dynasty. Nothing calms when the next glyph appears. Their nemesis, the Mynarch leadership, the Jackal Regent Lord Hunter of the Void, Ixatothek, Mactlan Kutlak, the Extinguisher of Life, the Charnel Lord, World Killer, the Godslayer. Then all are shocked into silence. All slowly return to their knees in supplication, myself included. How? Of all of our kind who went into slumber, if there was any justice in this horrific existence, they would not have survived the eons in stasis. It cannot be. but it is unmistakable. The glyph is that of the most terrible being amongst us. This will be a campaign drenched in fear and unspeakable atrocities. Honorless. It is the supreme Ferak of the Minarch dynasty. It is the fist of the Silent King. She who scours the stars. She who makes them weep. May all of the lesser races' gods grant mercy on their peoples, for she will not. For it is Zun-Bakir, the mother of oblivion. I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant. Throw me a like and subscribe if you want more of the same. And no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.